Yamina Collins here. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to have some fun. Today I am making a video called Black Girl Nose Contouring, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's about contouring a black woman's nose, but with a subtle approach. And I stress subtle because I am not a fan of these four particular ways of contouring your nose. Number one, when you make your nose too thin, or really if you make your nose thin at all, but too thin especially, I'm not a fan of that look. I'm not a fan of the look when you sort of put all the highlight on the tip of the nose and all the light goes there. Not a fan of that look. I am also not a fan of the look when you cut off your nostrils. You sort of highlight the nose so that the nostrils get cut off, which is another way of making the nose too slim. I'm not a fan of that. And then finally, I'm not a fan of the overly contoured look in which you can see the lines, and that's for obvious reasons. I'm not a fan of those particular four looks. So if that's what you're looking for in a video, you'll probably want to pass this video on by, because that's not what this is about. This is about a more subtle approach. Now, my nose is actually contoured right now, and this is the way that I like my nose. I like it where this is pretty much my nose. You can see by this image here next to me, this is my face without my nose being contoured. It's a slight difference, not a big difference, but the point is that I believe that contouring, especially for black women, but I think women in general, should be about you creating the best version of you. I'm not saying don't have fun with things. Obviously with my eye makeup and things, I love having fun with makeup, but still at the end of the day, still trying to look like yourself. And I think about actresses, for example, like Jennifer Grey, and this is in no way to shame her, because I don't think her getting a nose job was a shameful thing, but I do think from what I understand publicly, she regretted it because she went in looking one way and she came out looking another. And if you think of other women, like for example, say Barbara Streisand or Meryl Streep, I don't believe they got nose jobs, but that's the point. Imagine if they had changed their nose so drastically, or really at all, they would stop looking like themselves. Meryl Streep would not be Meryl Streep without that very distinct nose, and Barbara Streisand would not be Barbara Streisand without that very distinct nose she has. Now, I know I said that this was going to be about black girl contouring, black girl nose contouring, and I'm mentioning these famous white women, but that's okay because I think the point is the same. The point is about creating a nose shape for you that looks like you. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is remove the makeup on my nose and show you how I get this much more subtle approach. And then I'm also going to walk you through those 4 points that I mentioned, those 4 ways of nose contouring that I don't like, and just explain my opinion. Again, it's my opinion of why I don't like them, and just try to gently suggest some other ways that you could contour your nose, so at the end of the day, you end up being the very best version of yourself. So let me go ahead and remove this makeup, and I'll be right back. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I have removed all of the contouring on my nose. I'm starting with a clean slate, and I'm going to go ahead and start with my Viseart eyeshadow palette. I actually use eyeshadows and powders to contour instead of creams, and I'm going to go ahead and use this red brick color. I did have a brown color, but I used it all up. It's out, so we'll go ahead and we'll start with this red brick color, and I'm literally just going to start at the tip of both of the ends of my eyebrows. Okay, and I'm literally going to just follow the line, the sort of widest width of my nose. Now, the reason that I like to keep my nose wide, number one, 2 reasons. One, I don't have a super wide nose as it is, and I sort of want to keep as much of my African American features as possible. But number 2, I believe that when you make your nose thinner, it instantly has an aging effect. And here's why I think it does. Usually when you think of people that have nose jobs, you tend to think of older people. Usually 16-year-olds and 20-year-olds aren't having nose jobs. I'm not saying they can't, but usually they don't. It's once we get older, we're more critical of our face, we have the financial means to change things, that we start to get nose jobs. When you think of Hollywood actresses and you sort of see these sort of maybe bad plastic surgery mishaps, it's usually when they're older. So for me, I don't like the idea of trying to narrow my nose. I like to just keep it the width that it is, on top of the fact that, again, I want to keep my African American features as much as possible. So I don't like to thin it. And then the other thing I don't like to do is, a lot of times I'll see people and they will contour by taking this line here and going all the way down to the tip of the nose and sort of cutting off the nostrils. I don't like to do that because I think that's another way of thinning the nose, and it kind of has this like that sort of look to the face. So I don't like to do that. So let me get rid of this, and I will show you how I go ahead and contour. I literally follow the the sort of true outline of my nose. And definitely for African American women, I would suggest, I know we're sort of taught to hate our noses and hate our wide noses and our broader noses, but I would certainly suggest just give it a try following literally the outline of your nose. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and follow the outline here, nostrils and all. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. We're going to give this outline as our base. And this is just how I've decided that I like to contour my nose. Of course, you can decide on any way you want to do it, but again, I would like to lovingly suggest just try following literally the outline of your nose. So we're going to do this here. And then what I'm going to do is, I admit that one of the things I do like is I do like this sort of button nose. So what I like to do is follow the tip here, or draw a circle here, and it creates this sort of button nose on the end of my nose. And I admit that that's sort of the style that I like, so I've created that for myself. So I'm going to go ahead, and if you can just sort of see the shape that I've done, this is following the outline of the nose and keeping this button nose. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and start to highlight. I'm going to start to highlight, and usually I use either a yellow or an orange color. It's summertime. I think today I'll maybe go for a yellow. And I'll go ahead, and when I highlight, I don't like to just highlight the tip. I think for me, one of the reasons I don't like just doing the tip is two reasons. One, I think people don't blend it as well. But the second reason is you have to ask yourself, if you bring all the light just to the tip of your nose, when you look back at your photos 10, 20 years from now, are you going to like seeing yourself looking like the Tin Man or the Tin Woman? So that's why for me, I like to highlight everything, not just the sort of little tip here, but also the middle of the bridge of the nose, and also, of course, the nostrils here. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of highlight kind of everything like that. Oh, by the way, the reason that I like to cut off this part of the nose when I put a darker shade is because it kind of shortens the nose, and that's what helps kind of bring forth the sort of button nose a little bit more. So this is how I have done my highlighting. And then what we're going to do next is we are going to go ahead and blend. Now, admittedly, for me with my blending, I have used a purple color, a sort of red brick purple color. It's a little bit too purpley. Since I'm out of my brown, I'm going to go ahead and use this slightly lighter brown and blend it with the purple, and sort of follow the outline here so that we can kind of decrease this purple color. Obviously, I think for African American women, if you can use a sort of a right shade of brown to contour, I think it's great. But since I just had my red brick purple, that's what I used. And now, of course, we will go ahead and we'll start to blend. So blending is probably the most important part, I think, of contouring. You know, it's funny, when I think about the sort of old movie stars, and if you've seen some of my other videos, you guys know I'm fascinated by the old movie stars like the Marilyn Monroes and Dorothy Dandridge and Rita Hayworth. I can tell, especially with, like, for example, Marilyn Monroe, I can see where she has done contouring on the nose, but it's blended so well you can't see it. And I think that is the trick of doing great nose contouring, is sort of creating these lines and then almost pretty much getting rid of them. And that's what we're going to do here. And this is probably going to take a while, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll just get to do a lot of blending. I usually like to start off with brushes when I blend, but usually by the time I finish doing all my blending, I end up using my fingers. So just kind of get everything going here. Blending, blending, blending. Now, if you saw the earlier edition of when I first started this video, I had blended everything so well that you pretty much couldn't see anything. I do like to do my nose that way, but I also sometimes like to do it where I keep this darker line here because it creates a bridge in my nose, and I like that. I like a bridge because I feel like without my nose being contoured, my nose is flat against my face, and I prefer for my nose to kind of come forward just slightly. So even though in the beginning of this video, this tutorial, you saw my nose completely blended, I'm not going to go ahead and completely blend now because I've just decided that I kind of like, sometimes I like to just keep this bridge visible. So the bridge part here, we're gonna go ahead and keep that somewhat visible. And I love this darkness because when you have the darkness here, it sort of creates a space, and that I think helps to bring my nose forward. So we won't blend as much here, but then the rest we'll do a lot of blending. And I'm now going to go ahead and use my fingers to finish the blending. Get all the darker probably still a little bit too purple, so I'm gonna have to blend some more. Let me maybe grab a little bit more of the brown. Okay, so let me grab a little bit more of the brown because I feel like it's a little too purpley. You can see it. So the point is to kind of hide some of this purple and make it a little more of a natural look. All right, now let's go ahead and add a little more highlight because I kind of got rid of the highlight a little bit here. So we're going to highlight some more. Again, I love doing the nostrils. I think hiding the nostrils is just not a good look. Like I said, it makes you kind of get this like pinched look on the nose, and I don't like that. So I love to bring out the full power of the nose, if you will. And I do think for African American women, it is important for us to love our nostrils and love our sort of wider width noses, and start to appreciate them and start to not hide them. Not try to hide them behind a contour, but just sort of bring out the best version of our noses. Let me see. Hold on, I could do a little more blending here. Like I said, blending is probably the #1 thing that you really want to get right when it comes to nose contouring. Let's see how that looks. I could stand to maybe just add a little more darkness here because like I said, that's just me. I just kind of like that added darkness up here. Kind of creates that bridge, like I said, that I like. That's just a personal preference, that's all. And yeah, and that is pretty much it. Like I said, I do kind of like to keep this line slightly visible because I like sort of creating this bridge, just like I like creating sort of a button nose. And these are the two ways that I like to do my nose, either like this, where I bring the nose forward, or like you saw in the very beginning of this video in which I blended everything. But I think for me, definitely I want to gently encourage you to just keep your nose as much as possible. Like I said, I think a lot of times, especially for African American women, we are sort of taught to hide our features instead of just bringing them forth. And you know, one of my favorite sayings is, be yourself because everyone else is already taken. So that's it. That's the end of the tutorial. Please leave me a comment. Let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.